Hello there and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about Time Rifts, which is a brand new system in patch 10.1.5 Fractures in Time, which has you jumping through the multiverse, beating bosses, getting a bunch of reputation, different rewards, mounts and everything. This is a really cool system and actually super deep for a 0.5 patch. So in this video we're going to go over everything you need to know about this awesome new system coming in 10.1.5. But before we jump into all of that, guys, I just want to shout out my Twitch, twitch.tv/GM. For to see me stream World of Warcraft, Dragonflight, PTR, and more. I'm over on twitch.tv/MrGM every single day. Right, so yes, Time Rifts. This is a really cool feature, and I've been testing it an absolute ton on the stream. It's changed quite a lot over the last couple builds, but we do now have a release date of July 11th or 12th, depending on your region, for patch 10.1.5. So yeah, the version we've got on the PTR right now seems to be the finished version, and it seems to be a really fun and interesting system, which is definitely going to keep a lot of casual players busy for at least the next couple months, I would say. So what is a Time Rift? So, a Time Rift occurs every hour on the hour in Thaldraszus. It's marked on the map, it's over in the Tierhold Reservoir, so you can know how long you've got until a Time Rift or how long you've got left on an active Time Rift. Generally speaking, they last around 15 minutes in total from, as I mentioned, on the hour every hour. These are repeatable, so if you want to do it, you can do it every hour on the hour. They got really good replayability quality to it as well, which is really cool, but if you just want to do it casually, you can just do it once a week for the weekly quest, which has a bunch of rewards, which we'll go over in a little bit. So that's the timing of the Time Rift, so it is very often, which is really great, similar to kind of like the Researchers Under Fire event, for example. So what actually happens during a Time Rift? Well, when a Time Rift is active, it is split into two sections. You have a kind of outside world section in the Tierhold Reservoir, and then you have a scenario section, which we'll go over in a minute. But first, let's talk about stage one. So once the clock hits the hour, you want to go speak to Soridormi. Now this will start the Time Rift. Now, stage one is actually pretty much a solo stage. So you'll have different tasks to complete around the Tierhold Reservoir in this kind of phased area. There'll be different invaders from different time ways coming in. There's like chance of 7 different ones, like Murlocs or Scourge, Black Empire, robots, titans, demons, and various other like Horde and Alliance alternate reality thingies. It's pretty crazy. But pretty much every time it's going to be something different, which is cool. It mixes it up quite a lot. So you have different tasks to complete. These tasks are unique to you. So if you were in a group, you wouldn't get the same tasks. At least that's what we found on the PTR, which is fine. You kind of run around. You can pretty much do these solo anyway. Some of it is just killing NPCs. Some of it is like some cool little puzzles, which are really fun. Some of it is like kind of dragon riding, flying, taking out NPCs and whatnot, or clicking different things, or kind of throwing stuff into portals. It's all very crazy. It's actually really interesting and varied. So I really do like phase one. Phase one lasts around 10 minutes, and every task or NPC that's killed by someone in the area will raise the bar at the top of the screen. This bar is a temporal essence bar, and this maxes out at 3,000. It was previously 7,500, so if some of the footage say that, that's just old. It's now 3,000. And every 1,000 temporal essence, you will get a reward. So the first reward is like a green bag, next is a blue bag, and then I would imagine the final reward will be a purple bag. Inside here is some reputation and some of the currency, which we'll talk about a little bit more in detail in a little bit. This is something that can be contributed by anyone in the area doing the kind of unique tasks to you. That said, this part is really cool and really fun and very varied, and I enjoy it a lot. Every time you kill something as well, you seem to get reputation. So if you're after the rep from this, which again we'll talk about in a little bit, you do get rep per kill. It's around about 1 or 2 rep. It's not a lot, but if you really want to know life it, you can just run around here and kind of kill stuff if you like, which will also add to the temporal essence bar. So around about 10 minutes of you just doing tasks and things like that, stage 2 will begin, which is a portal in the middle of the Tierhold Reservoir. Now this is the really cool part of Time Rifts. So once you jump into this portal, you'll be teleported to an alternate reality Azeroth. So there's a chance of 7 different alternate realities you could be teleported to. Once you get there will be a boss to kill. So the 7 are Asmaloth, which is like Murlocs. You've got Asmorn, which is Scourge. It means that the Scourge one, I think. Azkaroth, which is like a Black Empire one. You've got A.Z.R.O.T.H, which is a robot one with King Mechagon. You've got Alderoth, which is where the Titans are ruling over everything. You've got Azurath, which is where the demons took over. And you've got the Warlands, which is a constant Horde versus Alliance battle. But yeah, there's 7 different ones. They're all really varied, and there's a boss in there to kill once you get through this portal. From the looks of things in the game files, these are capped at 10 players. So once 10 players are in, anyone that continues to jump in, we'll just go into a different one that you're in, but you can group up for this part if you like, but you don't have to. There will just be 10 people just kind of running around, which is cross-faction as well. So once you get a few people in there, it is scaled as well. So if you only had like 5, it would scale down, which is fine. You kill the boss. There's a boss for each of these, which has tactics and all different things going on. So it's a lot of fun. They're not too difficult, really. And that's kind of the goal of step 2. So you just go through the portal, depending on which one it could be. kill the boss, and then you get a chance of reward at the end. You don't always get a reward from killing the boss, however, this is the requirement for finishing the weekly quest, so it's very imperative that you jump into the scenario and kill the boss. This will also give you some reputation as well. So that's kind of the general overview of like the time rift in itself, but there's so much more to it. There's, you know, things like the currency and the reputation, which I've mentioned a few times. So let's talk about the currency they're going to be gaining during these time rifts, and these are Paracausal Flakes. These are infinitely farmable, and they drop from various things. You get them from kills during phase 1. You obviously get them from the weekly quest rewards, so you're going to get a ton there. You're going to get around 1,000 or so from the weekly, so definitely make sure you do that. You're also going to get quite a few when you kill the boss at the end of the scenario. You can also get this currency from bosses in the mega dungeon. So if you do the mega dungeon, they will be dropping Paracausal Flakes as well. And finally, you can get some from Aeon's Fringe, which is going to have a daily quest over there. So there's going to be a new daily quest in that area, which takes you through the multiverse. It's super crazy. You might have seen it in the WoW news because there was some controversy with it, but you will get some currency from that on the daily if you want to head over there and do those fun multiverse quests per day. And I think you get about 70 for that, which isn't too bad at all. So let's talk about rewards now. Why are we getting these Paracausal Flakes? Why are we farming absolutely tons of them? Well, there are some really great rewards, honestly. So let's talk about the box quickly. The weekly box, as I mentioned before. This is a weekly quest from Soridormi. You're going to go pick that up just before you start any time rifts. You've got to speed through anyway, so I don't think you're going to miss it. So the requirement for this quest is simply just to complete a time rift, so complete the boss, the scenario part. So if you arrive late, you could kind of jump into the portal, kill the boss, and get the kind of weekly reward there. So inside this box, you have a bit of gold, you have some reputation, you have 1,000 of the currency, you have a encapsulated destiny. Now these items are really cool, and you'll see these pop up a few times. You'll see them in like Aeon's Fringe dailies, and sometimes they'll drop from NPCs and things like that. This is a really awesome item which will guarantee a reward from a time rift, so make sure you use this item before you go and kill the boss. What that'll do is if you use this item, it will guarantee that it will get something from the end boss of a time rift, which is definitely cool, and definitely going to save you some currency because the items that drop from the bosses at the end of the scenario are the same items which are on the vendors, which is a fantastic segue to talk about the vendors. There are a bunch of vendors in Tierhold Reservoir selling a ton of items. If I go through every single item here, we're going to be a week, so I'm going to kind of give you the highlights here. So first and foremost, there is some catch-up gear for your characters. So this will start at 402 and is upgradable to 424. These are purchased with diluted time capsules, which come from the weekly quest, and you can buy some catch-up gear for your characters if that's something you want to. As mentioned, goes up to 424, so it's not the best gear in the world. There's also some transmog sets. The way that these vendors work is that each one of them kind of represents the different time ways. So there'll be one for like the Olderoth one, or there'll be one that's Legion themed, or there'll be one that's Scourge themed, or whatever, right? Depending on the map. And you'll have different items which are kind of themed to that map. So from these vendors, there's actually two different transmog ensembles. One is a recolor of the Warfront set for all the armor types, and the other is one from, I believe, Legion. I think it's a recolored version of an item set from Legion. And those are purchasable through the vendors, and all the things on the vendors are purchasable with the Paracausal Flakes, which is going to be your most favorite currency in 10.15. Also, you're going to see some really cool trinkets on here. Some very, very cool trinkets indeed. So these start out at 402 item level, upgradable once again to 424. There'll be veteran trinkets. Now, each of these actually represents one of the legendaries from World of Warcraft history. Now, there are all sorts of ones here, and all of them have kind of a very similar effect to these legendary weapons and armor, which is so cool. So you have like one for Frostborn, which uses the abilities of Shadowmourne, or you have one for like the Hand of Ragnaros, or you have one which uses the abilities of Thunder Fury, which is really cool. You have one for Charlemagne for the Alliance, and one for Doomhammer for the Horde. You have one for Schneshnor, yep, that's exactly how that's pronounced. You have one for the Warglaives of Azzinoth, which has that legendary effect, and you have one for Valanar from Ulduar, which is awesome. So all different trinkets which have legendary effects on them. As mentioned, they only go up to 424, so I don't know how viable they will be for many people, but the effects are very cool, so maybe, you know, the effects will outweigh the low kind of item level here, but yeah, we'll have to see about that. But yeah, some very cool trinkets which are purchasable for a pretty low price, to be honest, if you want to grab them. So yeah, highly recommend grabbing those and checking those out. Some of them might be broken, I don't know, we'll see, but yeah, you can just buy those from the vendors. Also, 7 mounts. There are 7 mounts available through these vendors. You have the Fellstorm Dragon, you have the Gold Toad Albatross, the Perfected Juggernaut, the Ravenous Black Griffin for the Alliance, the White War Wolf for the Horde, the Scourgebound Vanquisher, and the Sulphur Hound. So these are all different recolors of mounts from the past, and yeah, won't set you back too much either, so they shouldn't be too difficult to obtain. There's also a bunch of new battle pets as well from each of the vendors, which all look very, very cool. Big fan of kind of the new battle pet models that they're using. Some of them are new models, some of them are old models. Either way, they all look very cool. There's also a bunch of individual transmog pieces from like weapons, like recolors of old weapons or unused models of old weapons. Also a massive highlight for me is the Pauldrons of the Firelord. This is a shoulder transmog which is available to all armor types and is literally the shoulders from Ragnaros in Firelands, and they look absolutely phenomenal. But on top of that, as mentioned, there's just some weapons and things, like really big weapons from like the Legion vendor. I would show you every single one, but there's so many, so I highly recommend, once the patch goes live, going down there and taking a look. But for the most part, the Pauldrons of Firelord are kind of the highlight for me, but there is also some recolored weapons and armor from the past, which are coming back with this system. Also as well, there are two new tabards. So there's one for the Sons of Hodir, which obviously was a tabard which was added to Wrath of the King Classic, so they've now got a retail version of it, which is going to be available through Time Rifts, and a Scourge tabard as well, which is also data mined. So these two tabards will be available through the vendors in the Tierhold Reservoir, among other items as mentioned. And the best thing about it, as I said before, is that all of these items, including the mounts, the pets, all of that stuff, can drop from bosses in the scenario. So the way that works is just when you kill a boss, you'll have a loot pop up, and that's it. Maybe you don't need to buy that mount. Maybe you don't need to buy that trinket. All of that stuff will just, you know, have a chance of dropping at the end of the scenario. It's not that common, it doesn't seem, but you can use the encapsulated destiny to get a guaranteed item. So yeah, there's a lot to farm here, but I think that's kind of half the fun of it. And finally, let's talk about the Soridormi reputation. So the way that this works, it's very similar to kind of recent reps where you become friends with someone. So this reputation track has 7,000 each level at 5 different levels, so that's 42,000 reputation required to max out the rep. The rep works like this, so you have Anomaly, Future Friend, Rift Mender, Time Walker, and Legend of the Multiverse. Now this is not really a traditional rep where you just kind of buy items from a vendor. Once you hit a reputation level, you have a quest which will give you an item. The only one that I know right now is the Future Friend, which gives you the Minute Glass toy. This is really cool actually. You spawn this on the ground and it does kind of a countdown for you, which is really nice. So that's where you're going to get kind of at the first level. But for the rest of the rewards, I'm not actually sure. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun to find out. But yeah, sorry I couldn't find that out for you. But yeah, it doesn't really matter too much. Either way, 5 different levels of reputation. Doesn't look like there's any mounts or anything linked to it. It's just going to be like toys and, you know, different items from Time Rifts and whatnot. I'd imagine there's probably some like encapsulated destinies and things like that you can get from this rep. Either way, that's it. There we go. Time Rifts in patch 10.1.5. Really like this system. I love the amount of rewards you can get from this. As mentioned, as a casual player, I'm going to be farming these for a very long time, and I'm really looking forward to kind of just digging into it. I played it a lot on the PTR. There wasn't a ton of people testing it, so I'm really looking forward to just seeing a lot of people doing this and digging into Time Rifts. And I love the fact that you can no-life it. If you really want to get that rep done, you can no-life it. But if you don't want to do that, you can just do the weekly quest and casually get the rewards from completing the scenario. So I think that's really good. I think it's really nice to see something like that coming, especially in a 0.5 patch. So yeah, let me know down below, guys, what you think of Time Rifts in patch 10.1.5. I'd love to know your thoughts. Obviously, the patch comes out on July 11th or July 12th, depending on your region, so that's very soon, and I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, guys, if you like this video, please leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to support me outside of YouTube, I also have a Twitter, MrGMYT, and I'm on Patreon as well. And I also have a partner Discord channel as well. And if you want to check me out on Twitch, guys, I'm over on twitch.tv/MrGM. If you want to check me out, we've done a ton of 10.1.5 PTR content. It was just a great time. I really enjoyed testing Time Rifts to death. So guys, if you want to check out future content for World of Warcraft or just see me streaming, I'm over on twitch.tv/MrGM every single day. And with that, guys, I'll see you next time.